So if you look at this little animation that I made over here, you can see there's several things happening all at once. We have these 4 circles spinning in tandem, morphing into squares, then moving in tandem to reveal our little text that we've got here. So in this case, what we've done is taken multiple composites, or compositions rather, and stacked them on top of one another. The first composition was simply animating 1 circle. The second one was combining the 1 circle and multiplying it into 4. And then the third was taking those 4 circles and then sliding them on top of the text. So by manipulating that, we can sort of simplify what steps we need to do in each little composition. We can just animate the circle once, and then we can do some real quick just flips and rotations to make it all sort of match up. And then finally, we can create a series of animations along with the text by simply taking that composition and then stacking it on top. So we have 3 compositions. Let's see how this works. This should go pretty quick. Let's start off with a new composition, and I'm going to make it 1080 pixels wide and 1080 pixels tall, and I'm just going to choose 60 frames a second just to make this animation really smooth, and I'm going to make my duration about 15 seconds. Recall that we want to make sure we put this 00 at the very end here to double check that it's the seconds and not the frames, and then make sure that your background color is something conspicuous that you can just determine that you know that this background color is actually blank. So with that done, I'm going to go over here to my shape layer. I'm just going to grab a rectangle, and I'm going to hold down Shift and just draw a little square. Doesn't matter what color it is. I might make it sort of a noticeable color, like say for instance like a blue color on this, just so I can see it. Green, maybe Hama green. All right, just because it stands out well against the pink. Before I do anything as far as the position, I'm going to go here to Layer. I'm going to go to Transform and find this thing that says Center Anchor Point in Layer Content, which will allow me to make sure that my little rotation is going to start right here in the middle of this square. Over here in my Align, if you don't see Align, you can go to Window, Workspace, and make sure you have Default, and just choose Reset for Default to Save Layout if you don't see that. I'm going to choose Align, and I'm going to align it to the center of the composition. With that done, I'm going to go over here to my shape layer, and I'm going to hit P for position, and I'm just going to click this little stopwatch. I'll move over, just say for instance 1 second. And I'll hit P for position, and I'll move back about 1 second, and hit P for position as well. Just hit the little keyframe there. And I want it to land in the center, and if it takes about a second, that's fantastic. I might even make it go a little faster, maybe have it go at 30 frames, which is like about half a second. So it's going to go from one spot to another. I'm going to have it just go from right off screen to about here, to the center here. I'm actually going to go into my shape layer real quick. I'm going to open up all this contents and stuff and rectangle path. 280 is about good. You want it to be maybe a little less than 350 pixels because you want this to be able to kind of pop into being once you have this. Anyways, we have it start at the top and we have it end at the bottom or end in the middle. And let's hit P for position here. And I'm going to click my keyframes here, and I'm just going to go over here to my pen tool. And if I were to hover over any one of these little anchor points here, you can see my pen turns into this little vertex convert tool. By grabbing this, I can actually just sort of drag these points around, and I can make them, instead of, say, going on a straight path, I can have them go on a sort of an interesting little journey in this sort of spiral pattern. So say, for instance, I want to have this kind of tugged off to the side. Now, as I watch this, I want to just double check that this is not going to go outside of the circle, because if it goes outside of the workspace, say right about here, it goes outside of the workspace here, that's going to cause it, when I move it into a new composition, it's going to cause it to look as if it's sort of cut off. So let's have this just sort of like that, like that. Okay, that's good. And you can either have it sort of whip down further like this, or you could even have it kind of go off to the side, up to you, but I'll just kind of keep it right about there. Looks good. Okay, so we'll just double check that it doesn't go off the little artboard here. Fantastic. Okay, so if we were just to preview that, we can kind of see it sort of moving around like this. The RAM preview on this computer doesn't quite work well when the screen capture's happening here, so that works. All right, we can just select all these, right-click on it, keyframe assistant, easy ease, and it gives us a little sort of speed up, slow down kind of a thing. All right, with that done, let's add a little kind of flare here. Let's have it fade in. So let's T for opacity, hit a keyframe here, maybe a quarter of a second in, 15 frames or so, and another keyframe, and we'll just drag this down to 0. So have it sort of fade in to being like that. That's cool. All right, so once there, let's hit U on the keyboard just so we have all of our keyframes here. So it lands here, and we're going to have it become a square. It's going to begin as a circle, but we'll just go over here. Let's maybe have this last about maybe a quarter of a second here. So let's click over here to rotation, make a keyframe here, and we'll maybe have it go back a little bit here. Let's hit U on the keyboard real quick just so we know what's going on. So from 30, we'll let it rest for just a second, and then we'll have it spin out. Maybe I'll go from, say, for instance, 35 to 15. And let's click on our shape layer contents here, and our rectangle 1, our path, and we'll hit a keyframe for our roundness as well. Let me hit U on the keyboard just so I can line these up. Roundness here, and another keyframe as well. Okay, so with that done, what we'll do, roundness keyframe right there. Okay, what we'll do is we'll have it spin, and we'll have it turn from a circle to a square. So right here, we'll just have our roundness be, say, for instance, 300 or so. In this case, I think it's 180 is good. And then it goes from there to 0. And we'll have our rotation go from 0 to 1. All right, so that way it sort of comes into being, and then it spins into its roundness there. All right, and then once again, we'll just drag select this, and then keyframe assistant and easy E. So that'll give us sort of speed up, slow down kind of look. All right, so it comes in, stops, spins into being a square. We're done with the first composite here. We're counting composition. Let's go ahead and rename this to circle to square. All right, let's make a new composition. Composition, new composition. And this time we'll make it 1920 by 1080, 60 frames a second by 15 seconds long. And we'll drag in circle to square. We can actually put this to rename, call this for circle. Right, and we'll just drag in our we'll just control D this a couple times. So we have 4 of these different things. So if I were just to kind of move this around a little bit, I can just kind of see, oops, I've got 4 different circles. All right. Okay, so let's move out a little bit here, and let's go over here to, let's select all this, and let's go to composite layer, let's go to generate, or let's go to effect rather, effect, generate, and fill. And then each one, if we get our little effect controls, we can see over here we have a little fill mask. Let's go over to Google Chrome and go to color.adobe.com. And I looked up the word blockchain, just for no reason here. You can look up anything. You can look up, say, for instance, beach, and you can see several like kind of combinations of colors for going to the beach and stuff. Like, for instance, this is kind of fun with a bunch of different colors here, so I might use this. And you can just use these for your fill, and then use this one of these, like the darkest one, for your background. So for instance here, I'll just go through and I'll just one by one copy this, go to After Effects, and then go to my fill and just Control V, paste that in there. And then I'll just make this invisible, go to the next one. Back and forth, back and forth. So copy this, paste it, okay, invisible, copy this, it, and then copy this, paste it. Okay, so I'm going to real quick just change my composition settings to reflect this final color, just so even though this is blank, I just want to just have a sort of a feel for what the color is going to look like here. So if we can just kind of look through the different colors here, we've got several different colors. I might know that might be just a bit too bright. Let's go to composition settings and click on this, and maybe go to our brightness and sort of drag the brightness down slightly. That's good. Okay, cool. All right, just you want to make sure there's good contrast. All right, lastly, we want to have these all move in different ways. So we want them all to start on different corners. So let's start right about here, maybe, where they're all kind of off on the side. And we'll just select everything, hit R for rotation, and then we'll choose one to rotate, say, 90 degrees. And then one we'll choose to rotate 180 degrees. and then one we'll choose to rotate 270 degrees. So we'll choose them 90 degrees each. All right, so this is already hits a good kind of, they all rotate and they come together and then they sort of spin into a rectangle here. So right about here, as they spin into a triangle, we want to sort of, at the very moment it begins to spin, so it's hard to tell when it begins to spin, so we have to go to our circle to square and just sort of sample this. Okay, it begins with the keyframe 35 frames in. So we go to 4 circles, and hey, look at that, we're already on 35. I'm going to go over here to P for position, hit a keyframe here, and then we'll go to where we end, which is I think 50. And so once again, hit a keyframe for position. And now we just want to like think about this. This one was about 280 pixels wide. This circle was, at least mine was. So depending on what yours is, you just want to take that and sort of whack that in half, right? So for instance, this right here, my first one, I'm going to take my 960. I'm going to add, what was it, 280, so 140 or so. And that's going to go over here. And then I'm going to go down here to the next one, and I'm going to subtract 140 from 960. And I might add a little bit more to that. I'll like add 10 here, 10, and then I'll add 10. So maybe 150 or so. All right, so we'll just, we'll kind of go over here. We'll just add 150. So 960 plus 150, and then 960 minus 150, right? And then what we'll do here is we'll just take this, we'll add 150 to this, and then we'll subtract 150 from this. Now we have to like kind of reverse this here. We have to go over here. We have to subtract 150 here, and we have to add 150 here. Okay, so there's something happened with this last one here. I just double check this one. Let's, oops. All right, yeah, so let's just double check here. So we got 830 to 810. There we go, cool. All right, so now we can kind of see they sort of spin into existence here. Now, one thing I want to do here is I want to have, so these, the sort of this one right here on these two on the left, when they spin, they tend to spin, they look like they're spinning okay, spinning away from the center, but the sort of pistachio green, the salmon color one, they're spinning towards the center. I want them to spin away from the center. So let's see if we can't separate this. Let's find which ones is which. I'm gonna find the ones that are spinning the wrong way. So this one right here, and I'm gonna and then let's find this one as well. All right, I'll just hit Control on the keyboard and S for scale, and right before they begin to move, I'll just put a keyframe for scale here, and then I'll just move over one keyframe, and I'll put another keyframe for scale, and we'll just go from, we'll just uncheck this little chain here, and we'll go from 100% width to negative 100% width. And so now they should have been flipped, and so now we can see them spinning. All right, not quite. They're still spinning. Oh, yeah, they're spinning away. Here you go. Good. Cool. All right, they're spinning away. Fun. All right, good. So that's good. If you wanted to go a step further, you could even like just flip them up. But I think that's fine for now. So they sort of spin away. All right, neat. Okay, so now we're done with this. All right, so we have all this done. So they come into being, they stop, and then they spin away, and they end up here. If you wanted to add a little more space, you could obviously go through and add a little more space. I think this is fine. I'm going to go ahead and make a new composition. So let's go here to my composition. New composition, 1920 by 1080, background color. I'll make the background color like, just red, right, or something. So I know that I have to go back through and I have to go to my, I'll just go here, rename final, and I'll go over here to effect, or layer rather, layer, new, solid, and I'll just control, I'll just make sure I have that same thing here. So I get that deep blue, and then I'll grab my 4 circles composition, drag that in, and so it sort of comes into being, comes out. Okay, so right about here, when it stops, I'm going to give it a second. I'm going to say go from, say, it stops, maybe that 1 second in, I'll add a little position keyframe, and I'll also add a scale keyframe as well. And then I'm hit U on the keyboard here, and I'll go forward, say for instance, like 1/4 of a second, like 15 frames. So a few frames here. And I'll move it to, I'll shrink it down, say for instance, like 70%. Yeah, I'll just do 70, just to keep that 100 here, and then, oops. And I'll move to the side here, just over a little bit here. In this case, I'm moving over to like 650. All right, so now it all at once it goes, it comes into being, spins out, and then like that. Okay, cool. And so that's, I think maybe I could even move it out further. Okay, cool. And then I'll just select everything, right click on it, and keyframe assistant, easy ease. All right, so so one more thing, let's add our text. So let's go over here, let's put where our text is gonna wind up. Our text is gonna wind up right here on the side. We'll go to layer, new text, and that'll give us right in the center here. And we can just, you can just choose whatever font you want. I'm gonna say my last name, and I'll say motion graphics. And I'm going to have my last name be as big as the motion graphics. I'll just increase the font to be about the same size as the motion graphics here. And then we can actually take the entire text thing here, and we can once again go to layer, layer, transform, center, anchor point, and layer content. And that way we can just sort of pull over here and just double check that this is going to stay the same size as our. Now hold down shift while you do this. It should. There we go. Set it from the center here. And we'll just pull this off to the side, like so. And we'll just double check this is all aligned. Align this to the center of the composition. Cool. Good. All right, neat. And so now we have this sort of hanging out here, and we want this to move into place around the same time. So let's go over here to position, and we'll just hit keyframe position here. And then we'll hit another keyframe as well. And then what we can do is we can go from here, drag this out. Oops, not quite. Okay, we'll just drag this over here to the other side of this. And so now this will sort of move into place when that moves into place. So we want this to appear. And so the easiest way to do that would simply be to make a new shape layer. So layer, new shape layer. And then we'll start over here and we'll just draw a rectangle and make sure it just covers the entire word. We'll just make it white for now. And we'll have it we'll have a position keyframe here, and we'll just have it move totally out of the way of the text. And it's okay if it goes over the thing here, over the little diagram, the little drawing, because now it's just we're going to move and just move out of the way here. Okay, cool. And so now what we want to do is we want to go over here to our graphics. And if we see all this stuff with the 3D and the motion blur, all that stuff, we just go over here to hit toggle switches modes, right? And so just we can hit that to where we can see the track matte. And for Labello motion graphics, we just want to go over here to alpha inverted matte. That way it sort of disappears behind it, like so. And we can just select everything, right click on it, keyframe assistant, easy ease, and that should make everything blend together pretty well. There we go. Looks like it's just coming right out. Fun. Awesome. All right. So that's all she wrote. Let's go ahead and go to File, Export, add a meeting encoder queue, and export that and turn it as MP4. Really cool. Can't wait to see you guys produce. See you in class.